For possible human remains continues today at the former site of the Florida School for Boys in Okeechobee County. Allegations of abuse surfaced after a federal probe found more than 50 bodies buried at the school's sister school, the Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys in the Panhandle. The reform school in Okeechobee served as the overflow site for Dozier students. News 13's Amanda McKenzie joins us from the search site. And Amanda, I understand you spoke to one of the victims who claims he was abused as a student at the school?
Yes, Jackie, he tells me he has been waiting decades for justice and drove here from South Carolina to be part of the investigation. He attended school here in the 1960s when many other boys claimed they were brutally beaten or even sexually abused. He says some of them were never seen again.
The same staff who beat us was the same staff who beat the children in Mariana.
Gary Rice was 15 years old when he was sent to the Florida School for Boys in Okeechobee for repeatedly skipping school and running away from home.
The staff would tell you that there were boys that ran that were dead here.
Trying to escape or getting caught smoking a cigarette, he says, would lead to discipline.
But if you got caught, which I did, they beat you with a strap. If you cried out, they continued to beat you until you quit crying out.
He says while he was in a holding cell, he saw another young boy taken behind a door and listened to him cry as he was beaten countless times until he heard nothing at all. Rice says he never saw that boy again. According to the Okeechobee Sheriff's Office, there were 8 known deaths at the school, all of which were investigated and ruled accidental. But investigators have run into a major problem with these records.
And during that time, a lot of records and documents has been destroyed, missing.
Deputies have interviewed former students like Gary Rice to determine which areas of the school's property they need to search.
They had seen what they thought was a body in the back of a vehicle, and it went behind one of the dairy barn.
6 cadaver dogs are covering about 25 acres of land surrounding the dairy barn, cattle barn, maintenance barn, and sewage plant. But Rice says it's not enough and wants ground-penetrating radar devices like the ones used in Mariana to look for human remains, an option that is not part of this 3-day search. So far, no human remains have been found. Investigators have brought in a grinder and a bush hog machine to help clear some of the large debris so cadaver dogs can continue searching. Now, I'm told if these dogs cannot find any human remains by tomorrow, this investigation will be over. Reporting in Okeechobee, Amanda McKenzie, News.
It is the second day of searching for possible human remains at a former school for boys in Okeechobee, but still no clues. Allegations of abuse at the former site of the Okeechobee School for Boys prompted an investigation after more than 50 bodies of former students were uncovered at the Dozier School for Boys in the Panhandle. News 13's Amanda McKenzie talked with some former students who described what they went through decades ago.
It's a little healing, but you know, the more we talk about it, the more we get it out, the easier it gets.
Harley Denike says he was abused as a boy at the Dozier School for Boys in the Panhandle. Now he is in Okeechobee to support fellow victims.
We all share the same pain and the same abuse.
Gary Rice was a student at the Okeechobee School for Boys in the 1960s when many other boys claimed they were brutally beaten or even sexually abused. But this investigation is not looking into those claims. Investigators are looking into whether this school covered up murder. And now, half a century later, cadaver dogs are searching the grounds for possible human remains.
And the community as a whole would like to see this matter end. I don't see that happening.
In day 2 of the search, cadaver dogs covered 3 of the 4 areas outlined on the school's property.
Today's search once again did not reveal anything.
So with tomorrow being the last day of the search for any possible human remains, those former students are hoping for justice.
How can I get closure?
Investigators are also using machines to clear large debris so the cadaver dogs can properly search the ground. The dogs have about 10 acres of land left to search in 2 areas. If they cannot identify any human remains by tomorrow, this part of the investigation will be over. In Okeechobee, Amanda McKenzie, News 13.
Dozens of graves were previously found at another reform school in Florida. We told you about the trouble surrounding the now closed Dozier School in the Panhandle. Former students claim the school's guards viciously beat them. A team from the University of South Florida identified more than 50 unmarked graves at Dozier. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is reviewing the findings from USF. For human remains at a Florida reform school is over.
We are officially concluding our search of the Okeechobee School for Boys.
And they didn't find any bodies buried at a reform school in Okeechobee County in South Florida. The search began because dozens of bodies were found buried in North Florida at another school in the Panhandle. Now, News 13's Amanda McKenzie spoke with former reform school students who say they were abused.
I'm sad for the ones that we've all lost.
Harley Denike says he was abused as a boy at the Dozier School for Boys in the Panhandle in the 1960s. It was at that time when Dozier sent boys and staff to their overflow school in Okeechobee.
The abuse that was obtained here was the same abuse that we got in Mariana.
Former students claim they were brutally beaten or even sexually abused.
We have no reason whatsoever to disbelieve you, none. But we just can't prove the accusations, and we tried.
For 3 days, investigators deployed cadaver dogs to search 25 acres of the campus farmland for possible human remains, but nothing was found. Former students were skeptical these dogs could find remains buried over 50 years ago and wanted ground-penetrating radar devices, like the ones used at the Dozier School, to be part of the investigation. But that wasn't an option.
You've got too much debris. Okay, and number two is you don't have a location to where anybody said there is a body.
Officials say there were 8 known deaths at the school, all ruled accidental, and during the investigation admitted that many records were destroyed or missing. But in the last day of the search, revealed all but one of the school ledgers have now been found.
And based on some of the names of the accused, battered, or killed boys, he went out and found them or their family members.
Which means this search is over and the case may soon be closed.
It's not over yet.
In Okeechobee, Amanda McKenzie, News 13.